Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Every time I get together with this guy, I ask him a question, what's new? And he says, I forgot to tell you about. And then he goes into all these things that happened in his past. He's an architect, by the way, prominent, well-known New York City area architect, but he's also got a tennis career that goes back when he was in his 20s, and just the people and the connections along the way, just amazing. And we're hearing his stories here. John Riggio is back with us. Hey, John, how you doing?
Good. How are you, Steve?
Very well, very well. When we last left off, we were talking about the Japanese investors buying your contract, but apparently it wasn't only them; it was somebody connected. Now, I'm learning, as we just talked before we jumped on here, somebody connected to Adidas was buying your tennis contract.
Yes. So the one-time phone call I made to the Mitsubishi sports sponsors turned into a series of phone calls, because after they talked to me and I told them about some things about sports and how to get things going, it turns out they were putting my contract up for sale, trying to get maybe $150 million. And one investor that they were able to find was in the country of France. His name was Bernard Tapie, and he was the owner of Adidas Sporting Goods at the time. And he was interested in my contract. And they were trying to negotiate a price with him, trying to finalize it. And at that time, I called them a few times, and then I even started to give them some hints on how to make this big contract go ahead. I was telling them we need to get a lawyer, and maybe to call Hillary Clinton.
Who was your attorney, right?
Yes. So now that this whole thing is now under the ownership of Mitsubishi in Japan, I told them that they need to get a lawyer to do this whole thing, maybe even add on more investors, that one investor probably isn't enough. You might need maybe 5 investors to put up this much money for a sport contract. And I tried to help them with this, and this thing with trying to sell the contract to Bernard Tapie went on for a while. I don't know whatever happened with the agreements. But as far as I know, they weren't able to settle on a price. But I tried to give them some advice on how to really get this kind of contract going and get it sold. I think the same thing started to happen. I don't think they were really able to get all the different people together to try to make this kind of sale. So, but I did try to help them as best I can to give them all the information, how to get a lawyer, get additional investors, to help Bernard Tapie put together this amount of money, try to sell for as much as $150 million, and then get me playing again. And so that is where we were with that contract. So the one phone call I made to Mitsubishi, it did help them out, and it turned into a series of phone calls I made to them and to their head office there in Japan.
Wow. So I'll make sure I have this right. So we got Mitsubishi has your contract.
Yes.
And now Adidas is looking at your contract. This is, again, for frame of reference, we're going back to the 80s. And they're volleying back and forth, or one is interested in taking the contract over from Mitsubishi or Adidas is?
Yes, this is all the way in the year 1996 now.
Oh, okay. So we got out of the 80s. We're into okay. Wow. All right.
Yes, this is all the way in 1996. This is like during the time when I went over to Hawaii, and this whole thing with selling my contract and continuing to play was still going on. And there was a serious investor, Bernard Tapie was very serious about buying this contract, and then really to get the price. They didn't want to sell it at a loss. To sell it at a loss wouldn't work out good, because then my contract would go from 100 million, and then it might step down for a while. I think the idea with Bernard Tapie, I was just reading his bio, and I see that he was buying over companies that were maybe near bankruptcy and then building them back up, making a lot of money off of them. So I think the idea with the Bernard Tapie might have meant that they were going to have to sell less than 100 million. but they really didn't want to sell it at a loss. So the next thing to do was really to add on more investors. So I don't know if they were able to find more investors or what the details of what they were trying to negotiate, but I gave them all the information to try to put the deal together. And I think it was pretty good. And so that's really how I was helping them and seeing if they can continue this the contract going with another company.
Unbelievable. By that point, 1996, about how old were you then?
I was like 28 years old or something. As I was getting a little older.
Yeah, yeah. I was trying to remember when last time we talked, when things kind of wrapped up for you, but it was probably right around that time in terms of your tennis career.
Yes, I think as far as the whole push to get me playing, that the whole thing with trying to sell the contract and Bernard Tapie was one of the investors interested, was really near the end when they were trying to really push the contract. But what I was told, and this is after the fine that they had paid too, so the fine was already over with. They just paid the fine, but they still continued to try to sell the contract, continue my playing, and this is where the contract was, and it was the contract was left open. The contract is left open, and since there were those problems that they encountered, my contract is still open. It's a current contract, and so there's always things I can still contribute to my career, and um, there's even though I'm older at this point, it is officially still open. They wanted to do this to keep it open for me and to try to keep my career going.
Unreal. Um, Celebrities. You had we're talking about Hillary Clinton here as your attorney back then. How about some of the others that you ran into along the way?
Yes. Well, one interesting story that happened is one entertainer that really told me that it's okay for me to say that he was part of my fan club and saw my tennis was Chuck Norris.
Wow. Huh.
And I think he's a really big name in entertainment. And he came down to Sutton East. He saw me play tennis, and the one added thing about Chuck Norris seeing my tennis was that there was a whole story with Chuck Norris playing some pro tennis. And this came about when I was younger, playing at my courts in Jericho. I had my own court there, and all the top pros came to play with me. And Vitas Gariolitis, who was the captain of the players there, he was playing some tennis with me, getting to know me. And when he saw that I was breaking so many rackets, he started to have this kind of memory of someone who was, he told me, half Cherokee. And for some
Hmm.
reason, he was pairing breaking the rackets with someone who's half Cherokee, half Native American. And I didn't know
Are
what to
you?
make of
Are you
this.
are you or no?
No, I'm not
Huh.
part Native. And I thought that
Huh.
this thing with him talking about this, I don't know if this was going to cause a problem in my tennis career too. I mean, so what happened was I don't know why he would think this. I thought it was strange for some reason, and it
Hmm.
was. But one thing he was pointing out that he thought that someone who was like half Cherokee native was very strong. So he thought that since I was so strong, that he was pairing the two together.
Okay. And I mean, you're talking about a guy who made his career, yes, in film, but before that, he was big into martial arts. So this is a athletic, competitive guy.
Yes, in fact, I don't know really the details of his tennis playing or anything, but from what Vitas Carolitis was saying, was that he was just saying something like that, which is interesting. And I think the whole thing with him with the thing with the native, I was sort of just discounting. I don't think it was a real reason to play strong and to break some rackets playing. I don't think it was strange. I don't know why Vita Scarlett would say this as a chance. And then what happened was I think, and then at the time I remember this whole thing with some native issues came out, and I was telling him the story that even like right at the adjacent property where my school was, there was a native Indian chief that used to live there on a horse farm, and just by chance I did meet him. I did meet him in previous years, and he talked very nice to me, and remember even did this nice thing of making up a native name for me
Oh,
and
wow.
things like that, which is a really nice introduction. But
I think that's an honor too.
yes,
If I'm not the expert here, but in Native American culture, just to bestow a name on you is a big deal. Yeah.
yes.
Hmm.
So that was pretty good, and then I think, and then at that time, and then since this whole thing with Venus get licensed native, there was one player that was in the top pros, excellent player was Tim Mayotte, and he is well advertised that he is, I don't know, has a native heritage.
Wow.
And I played him. He's an excellent player. I did win that match, but he was excellent player. So I think this thing with the native was completely discounted. I wasn't sure if it was going to affect my career or what was going to happen. But I think one interesting thing was with Chuck Norris that I was watching him on like the Tonight Show, and then he was saying that he used to play tennis, and I thought that was really interesting. I think most people watching probably didn't realize the level of tennis he was playing. If he was playing,
Right.
I don't know how long he was playing with the pros, but he was certainly getting looked at by the pros to play the pro tennis. And
And I would never think that, that he would be that caliber, just like me playing on the weekend, every other weekend, whatever, just, enjoying another hobby, sport, whatever it might be. Wow.
yes,
Huh. How about weren't you connected at some point with Lisa Marie Presley?
yeah. So at this time with the Sutton East, yeah, Chuck Norris was there, and in fact, at the time Chuck Norris was there was also Jackie Chan was there too. They were there,
Hmm.
and
Wow.
at that time, I think since they were there, I also was given an introduction to Lisa Marie Presley, and that was in 1987. And this is right before she started her own music career and became really big
Yeah.
and had a lot of albums and things like that. And so I met her there. I talked to her a few times. It was very nice to introduce myself to her and talk to her. And that was really good that she was really interested in seeing the tennis playing and things like that.
And this was all at the tennis facility that you would run into these people?
Yes, this is Sutton East in Manhattan on 59th Street.
Wow. So why, I mean, why do you think Lisa Marie Presley was there? Was she interested in tennis, playing tennis, there to support somebody else?
Um, yeah, I think she was just there as part of people who are in entertainment interested in checking
Okay.
documentary. So what happened was, so I did meet her there, and that was really good. And her career really took off right after that, and
Yeah.
so that was very nice. But that was just another name I was just saying as an example. And so that is where we were at that time. So that was pretty good. And
It's pretty exciting, just being at this tennis facility.
and I think this thing with Chuck Norris was there. I think from what he was saying, also he knew about this story with breaking rackets, and that I had a lot of strength to break the rackets, willpower, and then so he was there and he was aware of that, and I think they really liked that. They really liked this competitive sports. I see Chuck Norris is really involved with competitive sports for a long time, other than acting, and so they really liked this whole thing, and
And I just
it
want to
was
share with
really good.
everybody in case they missed that last time. Uh, we may have mentioned it, but you had a habit of breaking rackets. The amount of power and velocity in swinging, you break the racket, which is, you know, Pretty amazing in itself. How often does that happen? Let's say, like other, like Vitas Gerulaitis or Boris Becker. Does that happen to them a lot as well? Is that kind of a thing for tennis players at a certain level?
Yes, I think a lot of the players they do break their rackets. I've seen them break their rackets, and so if two players are playing, hitting the ball very fast, the chance of your rackets not being able to stand up to the ball, going fast and cracking, breaking, obviously increase. So even though I broke some rackets, a lot of times my opponents would break their rackets. Sometimes they would think that since I hit the ball very hard and they had to hit it back with their racket, cause their racket to break. They're upset
Wow.
about it. Well, so most people, if the racket breaks, they just take it, they put it in their racket bag, and they usually have an extra racket with them to play. So then they put on another racket and they continue playing. But obviously wasn't the only one that would break the racket. Sometimes my opponent's racket would break too. And I think that noticeably a lot of my rackets are breaking. I remember sometimes I'd break all three of my rackets. I remember once I was playing, all three of my rackets broke, and the game had to be suspended until I go and got some new rackets and came back to play.
So just a couple of questions there based on that. When you broke your first one, two, five rackets, did you save them just because, wow, this is some of the first rackets I ever broke? And my second question here is, what do you think the sponsors thought? Yeah, when I say sponsors, let me get more detailed. The manufacturers of the rackets, let's say it was made by Prince, and now the racket's breaking. Were they cool with that because it was broken by a pro, or did they look at it like, oh, our racket broke? It couldn't withstand, the swinging of John Riggio. What do you think?
Yeah, what happened is the rackets were returned back to my sponsor.
Okay.
So my sponsor, who handled all the rackets coming through Prince, was my racket shop with Patrick Mulrooney. So all the rackets went back to his shop, and he would get a credit on all the rackets. And from what I was told, even some rackets were sold auction. That they knew I was a great pro player, and that these rackets were valuable. So some of them were even
Uh,
getting sold broken. So they had more value broken on some of the rackets. And so all the rackets I broke, I didn't keep any of them. 100% of the rackets were given back to my pro shop. And I would receive new rackets back. At the time, my mother would go pick up the rackets and bring them to me. So
wow.
she always assisted with those things, always helped me with that. Any clothing, sport equipment always came from the pro shop and it was given to me. And so that is what was happening.
Was your mom? I just want to jump in here because I know my mom supported me in my career. Did it sometimes feel like your mom was your manager in the early days? When you were just getting out of high school, early 20s. Did it almost feel that way?
No, she was the only one as far as just as a messenger to pick up my things and bring them to me. That's about it.
Gotcha, gotcha. Was there anybody that was hanging around there at that time as your manager in
Really,
those
my
early days?
manager was really my sponsor at the pro shop. And
Ah,
as far as the sponsor Prince Racket in particular, Prince Racket did know about the broken rackets, and they came down to the court. I talked to the representative. They even
ah,
wanted my input on the rackets, maybe suggesting how the rackets could be made better that they don't break. And
right.
I did give them my opinion and told them a little about my playing and when I was hitting the ball and things like that. And
Hmm.
I think that information was taken, and they do send it back to their scientists in the factory and see how they could adjust their rackets, make them better. And
Wow.
that is what was happening as far as the manufacture of the rackets. Now, some of the pro stocks they weren't made by Prince; they're made by different companies, and so the Prince racket made some of the rackets, but the line of the pro stocks, a lot of them were made by different manufacturers. I went through almost every manufacturer: Wilson, Babolat, Gamma, Dunlop, Vector, almost all the racket brands they gave me all kinds of different brands of rackets that I tried out all of them.
I don't think I've ever asked this
And I think
question.
I tracked about almost all the different rackets. I went through all of them.
What would both of them break a metallic racket and a wood racket? Same deal, doesn't even matter. You'd still break them, or did one break more than the other?
No, the wood rackets would break, and I think as far as the ability for the racket to bend without cracking, the metal rackets, which are really made from a carbon and graphite powder that is heated up and molded together.
Right.
It isn't rolled steel or anything. And from that they make the racket, and it has more bending ability without cracking. The metal rackets are slightly better.
Well, I would imagine they have to manufacture it that way with the graphite and some kind of compound because it's got to be light. Yeah, it'd be great to be hauling around a steel racket, but you couldn't pick it up. Even aluminum, would be a challenge because you want it as light
Yes.
as possible, right?
Yes, a lot of the aluminums are like extruded aluminum. It's slightly different than the actual metal or carbon made racket.
Hmm. What's your preference then, and what's your preference now for the type of racket?
I'm still going with the same kind of metal racket. They still make them with graphite.
Okay.
They're made very similar to the rackets in the 80s. They probably improved them slightly over the years, but the rackets are very similar to the metal and graphite made rackets from the 80s. Are exactly the same.
Do uh do they still regularly make wood rackets?
I don't think they even make any new wood rackets. I don't think anyone really bothers with them.
Yeah, I wondered. Again, I'm a weekend tennis player. Um, I can't even tell you the last time I picked up a wood racket. Probably when I was a kid, maybe in my 20s. I don't even know that. I'd have to think, pretty deep about that. But yeah, everything seems to be some kind of metal compound or product.
Yes,
Wow.
since I remember those old wood rackets, I went and I bought a bunch of used ones. The ones my
Ah,
parents used to have,
mm,
and the some of the rackets I used to have. We had this whole set of some wood rackets we started playing with, different brands: the Dunlop, Wilson, Spalding, Rawlings. I bought a whole
Rawlings.
bunch of them
Oh, wow. There's a
just to
name.
look at them to remember the past. I was looking through. So I have a whole set of all those rackets we used to have.
Wow, what a flashback. Rawling. Totally forgot about that name. I associate them maybe more with baseball, but yeah, I remember way back in the day they were I in my mind I can see the tennis racket bag that I had from Rawling
Yes.
way back, way back. Do you have any memorabilia that you've saved? Anything, for you stand out at certain tennis ball or anything like that, John?
Unfortunately, I don't. I didn't save any of my memorabilia over the years. For some reason, things when things were idle, I didn't save any memorabilia, so I don't have any of them.
You know what? I'm the same exact way. I have, I've interviewed, name the celebrity back in the day, and I don't even have pictures, and maybe some audio somewhere. It would take me a while to find it. I just never took pictures. I was just, I think maybe with the same in that, I'm just kind of humble. Yeah, I'm just doing my thing. It's fun. Great. Yeah. But when I look back, I was like, I had a picture of Janet Jackson. Could have had a picture of me and, I have one picture of me and Sting, but I should have taken a bunch of them, or somebody had them somewhere, but I never saved them, like you. It just, can't look back, but wish I did.
One interesting additional thing about my playing, that I was hitting the ball very hard, and like my rackets were cracked, maybe my opponent's racket were cracked, is this whole thing with them coming to my courts starting in high school put a lot of pressure on my opponents to come to play me,
Hmm.
and play this, to play me as the hotshot player. They're coming, they know that I'm an up and coming player, and it's difficult to beat me. Put on so much pressure that sometimes a tooth will fall out of their mouth. And I've seen this a number of players at the time. Really, their tooth will fall, and they had to take it and they put their tooth in their bag with their tennis rackets, and they continued to play the match. This was They're under such high pressure coming to play
Wow.
me. Yeah,
Wow.
it was serious. I think some people, when they caught on, they're playing me. I'm really moving up through the ranking numbers, going up past 500, past 100, starting to move up through the numbers. they know coming to play me, the chances of winning were coming lower and lower.
Jeez,
And
I
it
can't
really put a lot
imagine.
of pressure on them.
You know, I get it. I can't imagine the thought of, here somebody's a tennis player. That's their thing. They're a professional, or they're, just trying to up their game, and knowing that they're going to be faced against a formidable opponent, and knowing, yeah, I'm probably going to lose. You shouldn't have that mentality. You should be, I'm going to play John Riggio. I'm going to kick his butt. That's it. I'm going to get, but no, psychologically, it's got to be a mind thing where it's just like, yeah, wow. I mean, look at his numbers, and I'm sure they're all paying attention and doing their homework and their history on it. Good stuff. Like, interesting, going back to, and I didn't know you went into like 96 with everything, John. We're just
Yes.
about out of time. Your website is your name, John Riggio, RIGGIO.com. Of course, the architecture side, we didn't get to that today, but you do great work, and you can be found on your website and everywhere in the New York area. Where are you licensed for architecture?
Yes, I'm licensed in New Jersey, New York, and Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania. Okay, I wasn't sure whether it was Connecticut or Pennsylvania. Great talking with you, John, today. A lot of good stuff, and I'll look forward next time we get a chance to get together.
All right, great. Thank you, Mark.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.